If you are over 65 and you wake up every single morning feeling like your mind is wrapped in a thick fog, I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now and listen very carefully. Because the thing that is quietly stealing your memory might not be your age, it might not be your diet, and it is almost certainly not what your doctor has warned you about. It is something you do every single night, in your own bedroom, believing with your whole heart that it is actually good for you. And that belief, that one innocent nightly habit, could be the single most damaging thing happening to your brain right now. Stay with me, because in the next 12 minutes, I am going to reveal something that most people over 60 have never been told. By the time this video is over, you are going to understand exactly what this nightly habit does to your brain, why the damage builds silently over months and years before you ever notice a single symptom, and what you can do starting tonight, with zero cost and zero prescription, to begin reversing the harm. I get messages every week from people in their 60s and 70s who say they thought their memory problems were just a normal part of getting older. They were wrong. And once they understood what I am about to share with you, everything changed. So please, do not click away. This one might be the most important thing you watch all year. Let me give you a picture of how serious this is. Right now, in the United States alone, more than 16 million people over the age of 60 are living with noticeable memory problems that are not yet diagnosed as dementia. 16 million. That is not a small number. That is more than the entire population of the state of Illinois walking around with a brain that is not firing the way it should. And research from the National Institute on Aging tells us that the rate of cognitive decline in adults between 62 and 72 is accelerating faster than it was for that same age group just 20 years ago. That should alarm every single one of us. And here is the part that truly shocks people. A landmark study published just a few years ago found that over 70% of older adults who later developed early-stage dementia had at least one correctable lifestyle factor that was contributing directly to their brain decline, and they had no idea. 70%. That means the majority of cases were not purely genetic fate. They were at least partly preventable. If you are over 60, that number should give you both a warning and genuine hope at the same time. Now I want to talk about what that daily habit actually is, because I know you came here for the answer, and I respect your time too much to drag it out forever. The habit I am talking about is a very specific way that millions of older adults sleep, or more precisely, the way they prepare for sleep and the environment in which they sleep. And before you think, "Oh, I have heard the sleep advice before. I sleep fine," I need you to hear me out. Because what I am describing is not just about how many hours you sleep. It goes much deeper than that, and it has to do with what happens inside your brain during the night, when a particular condition is present that most people would never think twice about. And that condition is light. Specifically, sleeping with any source of light in the room, a nightlight, the glow from a television on standby, the bleed of a street lamp through thin curtains, the clock on your nightstand, even the tiny charging light from your phone across the room. These things seem harmless. They feel comforting. Some people have slept with a light on for decades and they are completely convinced it is doing nothing. But the science tells a very different, very disturbing story. Here is what is actually happening. Your brain has a tiny but extraordinarily powerful gland sitting right at its center called the pineal gland. Every single night, when true darkness surrounds you, this gland releases a hormone called melatonin. Now you have probably heard of melatonin as a sleep aid you can buy at the pharmacy, but that barely scratches the surface of what melatonin actually does. Melatonin is not just a sleep chemical. It is one of the most powerful antioxidants your brain produces. It goes to work in the dark, protecting your neurons, fighting the inflammation that builds up in your brain tissue over the course of every waking day, and crucially, it plays a direct role in regulating the brain's overnight cleaning system. Your brain has a waste removal process that only runs properly during deep sleep, in the right conditions. It is called the glymphatic system, and its entire job is to flush out toxic proteins that accumulate throughout the day, including the very proteins most closely associated with Alzheimer's disease. When that system does not run properly, those proteins do not get cleared. They build up, slowly, silently, night after night. And you have no idea it is happening, because the effects do not show up for years. But that is not the worst part. The worst part is what even a small amount of light does to this entire process. Research from Northwestern University found that sleeping in a room with even moderate light exposure, far less than leaving a light fully on, caused participants to have significantly higher insulin resistance the next morning and measurably disrupted their deep sleep architecture. It activated the sympathetic nervous system, the body's threat response system, even while people were still technically asleep. Their hearts were working harder, their cortisol levels were elevated, their blood glucose was running higher. All of this overnight, without them waking up, without them feeling any different in the moment. And here is the critical connection that ties all of this to your memory. Every one of those disruptions, elevated cortisol, poor deep sleep, impaired glymphatic flushing, reduced melatonin production, is independently linked in the medical literature to accelerated brain aging and increased risk of cognitive decline. You are not just sleeping a little less efficiently. Your brain is being deprived of its only scheduled maintenance window. Night after night, the toxic buildup grows, and because these systems work so quietly, by the time memory problems become obvious enough to notice, the damage has often been accumulating for a decade or more. Now let me tell you what your doctor is almost certainly not telling you about this. And I say that not to attack physicians. Most of them are genuinely trying to help, but because this particular area of research is new enough that it simply has not made it into the standard medical conversation yet. The glymphatic system was only formally described and named in the scientific literature in 2012. Think about that. One of the most important cleaning systems in your entire body was only discovered, in the modern scientific sense, about 13 years ago. Most doctors who graduated before 2015 never studied it in medical school. And the specific research connecting ambient light exposure during sleep to glymphatic dysfunction and cognitive risk in older adults is even newer than that. A study released by researchers at the University of Colorado found that older adults had significantly more disrupted circadian rhythms, the internal 24-hour clock that governs nearly every biological function in the body, than younger adults, and that this disruption was strongly correlated with the presence of light at night. Older eyes, the researchers explained, are actually more vulnerable to this effect, not less, because the lens of the eye yellows with age, and the photosensitive cells in the retina that signal darkness to the brain become less efficient, meaning the brain requires more complete darkness to register that it is truly nighttime. In other words, the older you are, the more damage a little nighttime light is doing, and the more urgently your body needs total darkness to protect your brain. There is also a shocking connection here to blood pressure that almost nobody is talking about. When your sympathetic nervous system is activated during sleep due to light exposure, your blood pressure does not drop the way it should overnight. Doctors call this being a non-dipper, meaning your blood pressure fails to dip down during the night the way a healthy body should. Being a non-dipper is one of the most significant risk factors for stroke and vascular dementia in older adults. And all of this can be driven, at least in part, by something as simple and fixable as the glow from a television standby light. So let us talk about what you can actually do about this, starting tonight. The breakthrough here is that reversing this is not complicated, and it does not require a single prescription. The first and most important step is to make your bedroom as close to completely dark as possible. I mean seriously dark. Not just turn off the overhead light. Cover or unplug any device that has a standby indicator light. That includes your television, your cable box, your phone charger, your alarm clock. If you use a clock, turn it away from you or cover the display. Invest in blackout curtains or blackout blinds if street light or moonlight comes through your windows. This is one of the simplest home upgrades you can make, and it can cost as little as $20 or $30. If complete darkness makes you anxious because you get up at night to use the bathroom, the solution is not to keep a light on all night. The solution is a motion-activated red light nightlight that comes on only when you step out of bed. Red light wavelengths do not suppress melatonin the way blue and white light do. This small distinction makes an enormous difference. The second thing you can do is establish a firm electronic cutoff at least 90 minutes before you go to bed. Every screen you look at in the evening, your phone, your tablet, your television, emits blue light that tells the light-sensitive cells in your retina that it is midday. Your brain responds by suppressing melatonin production for hours afterward. By the time you actually lie down, your brain does not believe it is nighttime yet, and the whole cascade of overnight brain protection that I described never fully gets going. Give your brain the darkness signal it needs at the right time. The third thing is to take the temperature of your room seriously. Your glymphatic system runs best when your body temperature drops slightly during sleep, and that drop is supported by a cool room, ideally between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Many older adults sleep in warmer rooms because they feel cold, and that is completely understandable. The solution there is warm, layered bedding, not a warmer room. You can always add blankets. You cannot fully undo the biological impact of an overheated sleeping environment. You can start all three of these things tonight. Not next week, tonight. And while no single change is a guaranteed cure for anything, what the science is telling us clearly and repeatedly is that protecting and supporting your brain's nightly maintenance cycle is one of the most powerful things you can do to reduce your long-term risk of memory loss. Not a drug, not an expensive supplement, not a complicated protocol. Darkness, a cool room, and screens off before bed. These are ancient conditions that your brain was literally built to expect every single night, and for too many people in their 60s and 70s, those conditions are simply no longer happening. Your memory is not just fading because you are getting older. It is being shaped right now, every single night, by the environment you sleep in. That is the thing that medicine has been slow to say out loud, and that is the thing I hope you will carry with you from this video. You are not powerless here. Far from it. The brain is far more responsive to the right conditions than most people are ever told. If this video helped you see something in a new way, please take 5 seconds to share it with someone you care about who is over 60. You might be handing them back something they thought they had already lost. And if you want to keep getting information like this, the kind that goes a little deeper than the standard advice, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Because there is a lot more that nobody is telling you, and that is exactly why we are here.